Hare Krishna. Welcome to our program. Our speaker of the day is Shriman Gauranga Darshan Prabhu. He has done his master's degree from the prestigious Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore. Prabhuji is a disciple of His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj, who is a senior disciple of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. He is also a member of ISKCON Examination Board and takes classes on Srimad Bhagavatam, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita and Vaishnav etiquettes. He has written elaborate workbooks on Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita, with which the students can dive into intricacies of these great scriptures. He is a compiler of many other educational booklets and magazines, thus helping the seekers of Bhagavad knowledge. In all, he is a living encyclopedia of scriptures preaching the science all over the world, and who is exemplary and lives whatever he preaches. Come, let's hear him and try to imbibe the essence of scriptures as presented by him. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Let us discuss a story from Srimad Bhagavatam. In the Srimad Bhagavatam 6th canto, there is the story of a wonderful king named Chitraketu. He was the great king of Surasena province. And Chitraketu was such a righteous king, he used to rule his citizens in a very religious way, just like a loving father. And in his kingdom, because of his righteous rule, there was always prosperity and his citizens were always happy. And Mother Earth, because of the righteous rule of Chitraketu, would supply all natural resources very profusely. So there were no untimely rains or excessive heat or excessive cold in the kingdom of a righteous king. When the king is noble, when the king is spiritually inclined, then Mother Earth is obliged to naturally supply all the resources that the citizens and the king need. There will not be any unnecessary calamities in such a righteous kingdom. And whenever the king is not righteous, when the king is cruel, when the king is not upholding Varnashrama system in the kingdom, and when the king is not spiritually inclined, when the king is not following dharma or the codes in the scriptural injunctions, then Mother Earth is not obliged to supply all natural resources. Mother Earth can withdraw all the natural resources because the citizens and the king are not proper. They have very poor consciousness. Just like there was a bad king in the Vedic history, his name was Vena. When Vena ruled, Mother Earth withdrew all the natural resources, all the grains and gems and water supply and seeds. They were not properly available or accessible to the citizens because of the bad king's rule named Vena. And because Chitraketu in this context is such a wonderful king, Mother Earth used to supply everything very profusely. So, for the prosperity of citizens in a kingdom, the kings need to be righteous and they need to uphold dharma and varnashrama dharma and more importantly spiritual principles and spiritual culture in their kingdom. So because of that, all the citizens also will follow the righteous king and they will also be spiritually inclined and they will have proper material prosperity and spiritual prosperity in the next life also. Thus, Chitraketu was ruling so wonderfully. And Chitraketu married one wife and he did not have a child. He married second time, still he did not have a child. Third wife, no child. Like that he married 100 wives, still he did not get a child. 1,000 wives, he still did not get a child. 1,00,000 wives, still Chitraketu did not have a son. Like that Chitraketu married 1 crore wives. Although Chitraketu married 1 crore wives, still he did not get a child. Although Chitraketu was so prosperous, so powerful, very well educated and very righteous person, he upholds all moral codes. He is so beautiful and he has very loving wives, so many queens, thousands of queens, 1 crore queens, and he has very obedient ministers and soldiers, and he has a very opulent treasury, and he has so many subordinate kings. Still, all this opulence and wealth did not give any happiness to Chitraketu, because Chitraketu did not have a son. The nature of the mind is, although we have so many things, we have 99 things, we don't have one thing, 100th thing, the mind will constantly think about that only. All the opulences and wealth and prosperity and associates of Chitraketu could not give any happiness to Chitraketu, because Chitraketu was constantly meditating on his shortcoming of lack of a son. I do not have a son. So he was always thinking about it. He was very anxious. He was so morose and sorrowful. And why Chitraketu was so obsessed to get a son? He married 1 crore wives, just not because he was desirous of sense gratification or sense enjoyment. It's not that Chitraketu was just looking for sense enjoyment with thousands of queens. Chitraketu responsibly wanted to have a proper successor in his kingdom. He really wanted a child, a son, who can take care of the Surasena province after his departure. So thus Chitraketu's desire to have a son is very righteous from this perspective, because Chitraketu, being a noble king, he wanted to have another noble king after his retirement, because he cannot live eternally. However powerful and however great and however righteous a king may be, he cannot rule the earth for the rest of eternity. Kingship has a beginning and has an end. Once his rulership ends, who will take over the kingdom? That anxiety every king has. Similarly, Chitraketu also has this anxiety, who will take care of my kingdom after my departure? So that's why he was desiring a son, and he was endeavoring a lot for a son. But although our desire may be proper, still if it is not there in our destiny, however much we may endeavor, we may not get it. Chitraketu married 1 crore wives, still he did not have a child, means having a child was not there in his destiny only. But still Chitraketu was not realizing this fact. Chitraketu was so obsessed with his desire to have a son, and he was always very morose. He was constantly feeling so disappointed and discouraged and disheartened that I do not have a son. So who will offer me Pindadan? Who will offer oblations to my forefathers after my departure? Who will take care of this dynasty? Who will take care of this kingdom? He was constantly meditating on it. And when the king is morose, the soldiers, the ministers, the queens and all the citizens also are morose. Although Chitraketu is righteous and there is a lot of prosperity in his kingdom, still in the minds of all his citizens and in his mind and in the minds of all his palace residents, there is always this anxiety and sorrow that there is no descendant in the kingdom. What will happen to the kingdom after the departure of Chitraketu? Like that, as Chitraketu was lamenting, one day a great sage named Angira Rishi came to Chitraketu's palace. Angira Rishi was traveling. He was a traveling person, traveling sage. He goes from one place to another place. Angira Rishi just came to the palace of Chitraketu. And Chitraketu received Angira Rishi. Very exemplary way. His guest reception was a very exemplary way of guest reception, that Angira Rishi was so pleased with the way Chitraketu received him. Whenever a guest comes to our house, we need to receive them in such a way that the guest forgets all his fatigue and guest feels that I am at home. That's the feeling that one should give to a guest. In the Vedic culture, even an enemy, if he comes to one's house, one has to receive him so properly and give him all hospitality and reception that he completely forgets his enmity with this host only. So to that degree, guest reception is very much valued and given importance in the Vedic culture. Chitraketu received Angira Rishi with great hospitality, and he washed his feet. He made him sit on a high seat, and he personally washed his feet and then sprinkled that water on his head, and he offered him all kinds of sandalwood pulp and garlands and whatever is needed in guest reception. And Chitraketu, although he was receiving Angira Rishi with great jubilation, still he was maintaining the sorrow of not having a sun in his mind. Face is the index of mind, as they say. Angira Rishi noticed this. This Chitraketu, King Chitraketu, is so prosperous, he is so righteous, and he is so noble, and he received me with such great love and respect, and he seems to be jubilant externally, but internally he is in anxiety. I can clearly notice it. Angira Rishi thought like this. Angira Rishi asked Chitraketu, my dear Chitraketu, are you happy? And are all the citizens in your kingdom happy? Your ministers are happy, your queens are happy, your soldiers are happy. So means our Angira Rishi is asking Chitraketu not only about his personal welfare, he is also asking Chitraketu about the welfare and prosperity of all his associates and paraphernalia. Because a person's happiness is not dependent on one's own personal welfare or personal health, but it is also dependent on people around this person. So our happiness or our prosperity, our satisfaction are not exclusively dependent on our welfare only. When our surroundings are good, healthy and loving, then that happiness will influence us also. We will also become very happy and pleasurable when our associates are happy. That's why Angira Rishi very specifically asked, are your ministers cooperating with you? Are your citizens happy with you? Are your soldiers obedient to you? Your wives are very loving to you? So just tell me, what causes you anxiety? You may seem to be healthy and prosperous, but there seems to be some shortcoming or some anxiety within your mind. Although the body may be healthy, mind is not healthy. Mind is not very peaceful. That can be detected by a powerful person. Angira Rishi is a great sage, great sadhu, who has all saintly characteristics, and he is a great devotee also. So he could easily detect the sorrow and the anxiety in the mind of Chitraketu. When we have spiritual maturity, when we have saintly character, and when we are connected with the Supreme Lord within, and when we are spiritually inclined, such a person can actually read the minds of other people. A devotee is very empathetic. So he does not just see the external demeanor of another person, a devotee also sees what's going on within the mind of other people. Once, Narada Muni came to Vyasadeva. In the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, this pastime is described. Vyasadeva is the author of so many Vedic literatures. He has written so many scriptures, including the Puranas, Mahabharata also, so many Upanishads. He has divided one Veda into 4 parts for the welfare of the entire humanity. After having done so much, Vyasadeva was so despondent, so disappointed. He was not happy, he was not satisfied, he was feeling incomplete within. In that context, Narada Muni came to the hermitage of Vyasadeva. And when Narada Muni came to the hermitage of Vyasadeva, Vyasadeva received Narada Muni with great love, great respect and great reverence, and he offered him a seat. Then Narada Muni detected, Vyasadeva, you seem to be receiving me very nicely, but I can notice that there is some anxiety in your mind. You are not fully happy. There is something, some incompleteness that you are feeling in your heart. There is some despondency in your mind. I can clearly notice it. Then Vyasadeva admitted, O Lord, nothing is unknown to you. You are such a powerful devotee of the Lord. You are such a great sage that you can easily detect the minds of other people. So my anxiety is known to you. I am feeling incomplete even after writing so many scriptures, and I just ask you for the solution. Why am I feeling despondent? Then Narada Muni told him, because you have overemphasized 4 Purusharthas of Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, and because you have not sufficiently glorified Krishna, and you have not sufficiently described the path of Bhakti Yoga in your literatures, in all your writings, you are feeling incomplete. Any writing, although it is spiritual literature, if it is not describing the glories of the Supreme Lord and it is not describing the process of Bhakti Yoga which connects people in general to the Supreme Lord, then such a literature is not actually satisfying to the heart of even the author also. So, spiritual literature has to be emphasizing on connection with God, and that is not sufficiently there in Vyasadev's literatures before he actually wrote Srimad Bhagavatam. And Narada Muni pointed out the cause of his despondency very clearly, and Vyasadev later wrote Srimad Bhagavatam in such a way that Bhakti Yoga is glorified. The Supreme Lord Krishna, his devotees and his incarnations are very wonderfully described in Srimad Bhagavatam. Coming back to the story of Chitraketu, just as Narada Muni detected the reason for the despondency of Vyasadev, here Angira Rishi also detected the reason for the incompleteness of Chitraketu. Nevertheless, Angira Rishi asked Chitraketu, "My dear Chitraketu, why are you so anxious? Can you please reveal the reason for your anxiety in your mind? Is it because of some non-cooperation between you and other people?" He just presented various possibilities why a king could be despondent. But Chitraketu said, "Angira Rishi, these are not the reasons for my anxiety. My ministers are very cooperative. My queens are very obedient. My soldiers are very obedient. My citizens are very righteous. I have no issues with any of them. I have so much opulence. I have so many subordinate kings. I have no dissatisfaction in all these matters. But I am dissatisfied about one thing. Just as a hungry man is not satisfied with any amount of supply of garlands or sandalwood pulp or any other facilities, what a hungry man needs is some food. If a hungry person is there who is looking for some food, and if you just go and offer him some garland or some sandalwood pulp, he will not be satisfied with that. So my situation is also like that. Our Chitraketu is saying. Chitraketu says, I am not satisfied at my heart. Why? Because I do not have a son. So I am very anxious. Who will offer Pindadan? Who will offer oblations after my death to my forefathers? And who will take care of my kingdom after my death? So I am very anxious about it. My dear Angira Muni, can you please do one favor for me? You are such a powerful sage. Can you just help me to get a son? Can you do some sacrifice or some puja or some vrata so that I can attain a son? Then Angira Rishi understood. Although Chitraketu did not have a child in his destiny, still Chitraketu's hankering for a child, hankering for a son is so much. He is longing so much. Okay, let me just do some sacrifice so that he could get a son. So Angira Rishi organized for a sacrifice, and he conducted that sacrifice so that Chitraketu could eventually get a son. And from the sacrificial fire, the Yajna Purusha or the sacrificial personality just manifested and offered a pot of payasam, pot of sweet rice to Chitraketu. And Chitraketu with great pleasure received that payasam. And if that payasam is given to one of his wives, and if she drinks it, she could become pregnant and she could give birth to a child eventually. However, Chitraketu was thinking, I have 1 crore wives. Whom should I give this payasam to? Who should become pregnant? Who should become the mother of a son? So Chitraketu was seriously considering about this. And Chitraketu was thinking, okay, let me give this payasam to my best wife and the eldest wife, Jyeshta and Shreshta. Jyeshta is eldest wife, Shreshta is the best wife. That is Kritadyuti. Chitraketu's eldest wife's name is Kritadyuti, and Chitraketu gave that pot of payasam to Kritadyuti. And Kritadyuti would eventually become pregnant, and she will give birth to a son also. Angira Rishi told Chitraketu, my dear Chitraketu, you are certainly going to have a son, and that son will cause both pleasure to you and sorrow to you also. So he will be the cause of your pleasure and sorrow, Harsha and Shoka. Harsha is happiness and Shoka is lamentation. Chitraketu's son is going to cause both happiness and lamentation for Chitraketu. This is the prediction of Angira Rishi. And Angira Rishi did not say more than this. So, and having said this, he just left. And our Chitraketu was interpreting this statement or this hint in this way. Oh, my son is going to be the cause of my happiness and distress both. Probably because he is my only son and I am having a son after such a long time, he will definitely cause happiness. But why will he cause distress? Probably my son is going to be very naughty, very mischievous, or probably very proud that he is the only son of a great king. Or he may have such great qualities that he can even surpass me, he could become greater than me also. Or he could be very disobedient to me. But Chitraketu was thinking, let me have a disobedient son than having no son. A disobedient son is better than having no son. So even if my son is going to cause me some sorrow or lamentation, it's okay, I should have a son. Chitraketu's enthusiasm levels to have a child was so high that Chitraketu ignored Angira Rishi's indication or hint. And eventually Kritadjati became pregnant and she gave birth to a son. And Chitraketu celebrated this child's birth so profusely, so happily, that he called so many Brahmanas and all his citizens and offered them profuse amounts of charity. He offered them cows, he offered them jewels, he offered them many other valuable commodities for their happy living throughout their life. So like that, Chitraketu started offering charity to all the citizens and Brahmanas as if a rain is showering water in the on the land. So just like as if cloud is showering rain on the land. So Chitraketu was offering such profuse amounts of charity. Then Chitraketu celebrated this child's birth so joyfully, and because Chitraketu is now happy because of child's birth, all his citizens also became so happy because of this child's birth. Because the happiness of a person is dependent on the happiness of his associates also. Our happiness or our distress naturally influences others' happiness and others' distress also. So far, Chitraketu, being the king of this great kingdom Surasena, he was so morose, he was so unhappy, and his citizens were also unhappy. And now Chitraketu became extremely happy, and his citizens also became happy, his ministers became happy, his wives became happy, and everything was happy at this stage. But in the midst of such happiness, there will be some sorrow. In this material world, one cannot have happiness perpetually. In this material world, one can have happiness only for a short amount of time, and again distress will take over. How will that distress take over the life of Chitraketu even after having a child's birth? We will see in the next episode. Hare Krishna.
For more such devotional programs, please watch Hare Krishna television. To get this channel, please contact your cable or DTH operator. For more information, please call 8767 845 845.